We will begin we will begin with a procession which will lead the brother in righteously, led by our children, people who's cherished the most by Baba Malik. I will call you to order. We will have libation, and then we will have beautiful spoken words from our own dynamic sister, Sonny Patterson. Thereafter, we will have greetings from our own chancellor, the young and very dynamic Dr. Lisa Mims-Devison. We will also be addressed by Dr. John K. Pierre, Chancellor of the Southern University Law Center. Dean Evelyn Harrell will follow that with an offering of greetings from the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences here at SUNO. My colleague, Sister Angela Bell from Southern University's Law Center will bring greetings as well. And then we will begin the program. We will have an examination and celebration of this brother's life from birth, 1947, to the United States Navy. The speakers therein will be Brother Parnell Herbert and President Rico Forbes, followed by a dynamic performance from Third Eye Theater, Sister Monique Moss, Artistic Director. We will segue into Chapter 2, Public Activism, the Panther Years and Beyond, 1968 to 2006. And of course, you can see I'm not going to read and mention everybody who's going to be a speaker. That will come when we segue into that program, to that format. Chapter 3, Post-Hurricane Katrina Years, Common Ground from 2006 to the present. Chapter 4 is all-important family life. And if you know Baba Malik, you'll know that family is extremely important. Community and family, they're interchangeable. And then again, Chapter 5, the presentations and the salutations for a brother who's lived struggling for the people his entire life. That's the order that this event will pursue. At this point, I'd like to bring my colleague, Sister Angela, to come and say a few words. Okay, Sister Angela will come to you later on. When the processional arrives, we ask for audience participation. Thank you. Just a friendly reminder, there are two people who have misplaced their cell phones. The officer out in the lobby has them in his possession. 2 cell phones. I'd like to take this moment to identify those persons who are instrumental in bringing this to fruition, and that those persons are the Living Legend Committee members. As I stated earlier, Sister Angela Allen Bell, who's the co-chair, Sister Darlene Holmes, who is the secretary in the Department of African and African American Studies, Mama Monique Moss. Sister Monique, please. Here we go.
Everybody stand up. Crowd participation. Malik Rahim. Malik Rahim. Malik Rahim. Malik Rahim. Malik Rahim. Malik Rahim. Malik Rahim.
Come together as one.
Malik Rahim.
The revolution has come.
Malik Rahim.
Come together as one.
Malik Rahim.
The revolution has come.
Malik Rahim.
Come together as one.
Malik Rahim. Right on.
Outstanding. The revolution has come. Brother Malik Rahim. As I was stating, there were some dynamic people who participated in this Living Legend Committee. Sister Angela Allen Bell, Sister Darlene Holmes. Sister Angela, please make yourself. Sister Darlene Holmes. So please go ahead, Darlene. Sister Monique Moss. Sister Tiffany Rainey. Brother Lamont Simmons. Brother Trent Smith. And I'm Dr. Clyde Robinson. Thank you, comrades, for doing a stupendous job. Thank you for your blood, sweat, tears, and love. Thank you very much. Before we get started, I'd like to ask Baba Malik for his permission to start the program. Baba Malik,
Oh, yeah.
do I have your permission?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, brother. All right. In the African tradition, in addition to asking the elder for permission to start a program, we also will pay homage to the ancestors in the form of libation. In that tradition, we're bringing forth a world-class libator, our own, SUNO's own, Dr. Amity, George Amity, Professor.
Here, I'll get you, George. Hold on. I just want to, for those who may not be familiar, it is the African tradition to have an occasion, a celebratory occasion, to pour liquid, preferably palm wine, but I'll go with this water now, to pour liquid to pay homage to the ancestors. Also, it's also done for the installation of kings and queens and chiefs, and also very distinguished elders, in this case for Brother Malik. Let me start off and just say that what I will be doing is making a libation statement, and behind every statement I make, I'm asking you to use the Yoruba word ashe, which is a statement of declaration of power, and which says what we say will be produced. So I'll start off first by saying I want to recognize the Creator, from which all energy and source and comes from. Without the Creator, we would not be here, and we say, Ashe. Next, I want to recognize Mother Africa, the cradle of civilization, from which all civilization came, and in the name of Mother Africa, I want to say, Ashe. Next, I want to recognize those on the continent of Africa, especially those great kings and queens. I also want to recognize those who were involved in the struggle for freedom, justice, and equality there. You know, Jomo Kenyatta, you know, Julius Nyerere, Nelson Mandela, and many others on the continent. For them, we say, Ashe. And I want to recognize those in this country, those who came on ships, those who came here in chains, but did not keep the chains on them, but broke the chains and stood for struggle, and stood for freedom, and stood for justice, and stood for equality. All of those we recognize by saying, Ashe. And for those of you in the audience right now, I want to recognize you for recognizing this brother, because you understand that we have a Jew that has been placed here with us, that who have put his life on the line for us. And we have to recognize those who are willing to risk their lives, those who have died in this country, you know, those who've done things that have advanced our situation. We say, Ashe. And to our youth, you know, our future, the ones who have to pick up the torch, the ones who have to pick up the struggle, the young people who came this afternoon and participated in this program, we say, Ashe. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Anthony. I'd like to recognize all those brothers and sisters who served in the Black Panther Party, who served in nationalist organizations and organizations that were established to support and protect the community. Please stand and be recognized.
All of us.
Brother Carl Gelman did not stand, but certainly he's to be recognized. Brother Sekou Fellows did not stand, but he certainly should be recognized. I'd like like to take a second to explain the focus in 2018-2019 of the Center of African and African American Study here at SUNO. Our focus this year is on unity, umoja. So the entire year, our programming centers around unity, umoja, unifying the campus, or one community, one word. And so you'll see on your program that the theme for tonight's program is, yes, celebrating a living legend, the unifying efforts of Malik Rahim. And so this activity pursues the center's theme for 2018-2019. So again, thank you, brother, for providing us with a unifying beam. At this point, I'd like to bring to the fore Sister Sunny Patterson.
Stay in line. Great ancestors, you are breath, you are bridge, you carry us over tumultuous time. You who can hear and answer with quick remedy, you are ready before we ask. You who can speak through tongues of trees and fire and water, this earth cannot hold you. We pound the ground and you appear, O ancient ones. You who can make lightning strike with the flick of a skirt. You who can make tornado turn with a spin and span of hips, take us there to the place of knowing, to the hall that leads to the doorway of you, O holy ones, you of the first light, you who know the potential of possibility pulsing in the dark, deliver us unto our gifts. You who have sunlight in your fingertips, touch our drums, make us hear the rising, make us move a steady stump, a choir of voices so majestic, heaven hides us in a tapestry of light, or we are stars, blankets of wonder, sky bright eyes, seeing the invisible, visible. You who have returned, you have turned our faces so that we see ourselves, and we have found you again in places we would have never imagined. You make our limits infinitely long, our vision is clearer with eyes closed, and even there, you still stand in full color, vibrant and eager to serve. Now they come. They come coffled and cuffed, their feet heavy with uncertainty. You can hear them breathing from miles away, shallow and short. Tethered souls don't know how to breathe deep, and auction blocks do not lend to comfortability, naked and frigid. Tar baby smooth like skin, lathered up real good to conceal any wounds. Now, you know massa like I'm free from disease, or at least appear to be. Shh, quiet. Now you know massa like I'm silent, and blocks do not lend to protest or chattel. Chattel have no say. Just smile big, show them pearly teeth, stretch long, push, pull, parade, rope, fold over, wide open. Let us see from behind how much you are worth, how well you can work, how familiar, ancient and new. New is new niggas for sale, fresh cargo. It's new niggas for sale, a lively stock. Don't you see them? Can't you hear it? In the whistle of the wind, in the howl of the breeze, in the pour of the rain. Oh, can you taste it? Sugar cane, sweet indigo, rich rum like intoxicating. There is something about suffering that makes men mad and makes others money. Something about others doing your dirty work that somehow seems to keep your hands clean and your conscience clear, clever. Oh, can't you smell it? Oh, it's in the seasoning. Something that makes them more tender, much more palatable, more suitable for enslavement. There is something in the breaking of a spirit that makes a better slave. Oh, can't you feel it? In the thickness of injustice, in the gaze of despair, the click clank of cuff, they come coffled off the good Jesus. It's the longest trip for the Africans, where rich men play with the lives of humans every day. Oh yes, there is something. There is something about suffering that makes men mad and makes others rebel. Here's to the rebellious.
I was reminded that most recently we lost a warrior, Father Ledoux. And so let us remember Brother Father Ledoux. As we celebrate a living legend, let us remember one who has just passed. Again, Sister Sonny Patton. All right, at this point, I take honor and privilege and pleasure in introducing our Chancellor, Sister Dr. Lisa Mims Devison.
All right,
as she brings greetings from Southern University of New Orleans.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Will the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern University of New Orleans please stand? Mr. Rahim, here at Southern University of New Orleans, we have taken on a new motto, and that is that we are a team. Togetherness empowers all mechanisms. So on behalf of the team of Southern University of New Orleans, not only do we bring greetings, but we want to thank you for all that you have done, not just to bring us to a struggle, but to get us through a struggle. For it is with your wisdom, your strong belief, but most importantly, your integrity and ethics, that we truly stand on the shoulders of giants. And thank you, because if it were not for soldiers like you, where would we be? So again, greetings and thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Devison. This is the first time since I've been at SUNO that we've actually traversed the many miles between New Orleans and Baton Rouge and developed a relationship with an entity on Southern University's campus. And that is the world-renowned Law Center at Southern University. At this point, I take great pride in bringing to the podium Mr. John Pierre, Chancellor, Southern University Law Center.
Good evening. Good evening. Chancellor Devison, what a pleasure for me to be here this evening. And Dr. Robertson, I commend you for your work, because I don't think sometimes people understand the significance of the work that you do. And of course, Professor Bell is just a shero. She does so many things. But I would be remiss if I did not help you connect the historical context of why Southern University Law Center is participating in this event. So first of all, in the month of January in 1946. A very courageous young man named Charles Hatfield, who was here in New Orleans, wrote a letter. And in his letter, he demanded an opportunity to study law at LSU Law School. He was a graduate of Xavier University, and he made a simple demand, but a demand that could have cost him the loss of his life. And so that is how the story of the Southern University Law Center begins. It begins with that man named Charles Hatfield. And for some of you who know, he went on, he never went to law school. He went on to Clark Atlanta University, came back to New Orleans, and like Brother Rahim was a leader, he actually created a union called United Teachers of New Orleans. All right, so that's one connection. In the year 1947, in your birth year, the Southern University Law School began operating after a lawsuit was filed, none other than by A.P. Turo on behalf of Charles Hatfield, another famous man and community leader and social justice advocate in New Orleans, along with Thurgood Marshall and Lewis and Barry, who also was practicing here in New Orleans. Another important tie-in to this particular event. And as a result of the efforts of that one Charles Hatfield and so many, today I want you to see what the Southern University Law Center student body looks like. Please stand. It looks like America. And there's one final piece. Sometimes Professor Bell asks me to do things, and sometimes she'll say, you can't understand the significance. And I say, I get it. Sometimes she doesn't understand the significance. Brother Rahim, after Hurricane Katrina, there was a lawsuit filed called McWaters versus FEMA. It was the lawsuit that fought for the residents of New Orleans to get housing rights and benefits and so forth and so on. It was filed on November 11th, 2005. It was filed by none other than John K. Pierre, John Britton, and some lawyers from New Orleans and New York and other places. And so your journey, your work in helping people come back to New Orleans is tied to my work. So it is an honor for me to be here to celebrate with you your lifelong, continuous work. And as long as I am the chair of the Southern University Law Center, we will continue to work to recognize Louisiana living legends and living legends who have helped people in this state become the place it ought to be. So again, it is an honor for me to be here, and I'm so pleased that we could participate. Thank you.
Chancellor John K. Pierre. At this point, I'd like to bring up the Dean of the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences here at Southern University to bring greetings from our college, which also I am a part of, Dr. Evelyn Harrell.
Good evening. As everyone has said thus far, it is absolutely a privilege and an honor to spend this evening honoring a living legend. And I say that because we're now living in a society where groups might extend an invitation to honor someone, but the integrity of the honoree looks at the background of that invitation and may say no. So we thank you for allowing us to honor you at Southern University at New Orleans. We are growing. Sometimes a man of your caliber would choose some of the other universities to have this happen. If you were fortunate enough to come down Press Drive, our college, the College of Arts and Sciences, and of course a unit is the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences, has 2 new buildings. And I want to tell you, it's a fight that you did getting us back here from Katrina. Because those buildings are here because of FEMA funding. And so we invite this community to come take a tour of our new Southern University at New Orleans. In a couple of weeks, we will be dedicating those buildings. And so again, we are fortunate as we extend this invitation to you to have facilities at Southern University at New Orleans that we have never had before. And so we thank you for your efforts with the fights and the many fights we probably still have to do to continue the legacy of Southern University at New Orleans. We're celebrating 60 years. And we are asking you, again on behalf of the college, to help us fill our classrooms. We need it. We want to see our enrollment grow such that the state-of-the-art facilities continue to produce the champions we want to see in our community and hail loudly that they're graduates of Southern University at New Orleans. An example of that is in the newly selected police chief, a graduate of Southern University at New Orleans. We are so proud of our faculty, staff, students, the leadership. And somebody has already said, the work that Dr. Clyde Robinson is doing here at Southern University at New Orleans is making us visible all over the world. And we are continuing that kind of innovation because one of our other professors in the college will be taking a group of students to Egypt this semester. But we need your help. And as you honor this great man, let us continue the legacy by continuing to support us as we support you. And truly, we will come together as one. Thank you.
College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Science. I'd like to take the opportunity at this point of the program. I generally wait until the end, but since I was given accolade, I must share that accolade with my staff. You already met one, Sister Darlene Holmes. The other is Sister Linda Hill. They're probably outside now at manning the table. They work very, very hard, well over time, nearly every night, to make sure that everything runs smoothly. So I pay homage to them. At this point, she's already at the podium. Greetings will be brought from Sister Angela Allen Bell. At this point, she's already at the podium. Greetings will be brought from Sister Angela Allen Bell, Associate Professor and the Director of a brand new center for civil rights and justice at Southern University's Law Center. Again, Sister Angela Bell.
The Louis A. Berry Institute for Civil Rights and Justice is committed to the advancement of civil rights and justice, especially in Louisiana and in the South. Like tonight's occasion, the Institute is also named after a legend. The late Louis A. Berry studied under the late Thurgood Marshall when he was a student at Howard University School of Law. Louis A. Berry later became a member of the faculty at Southern University's Law Center, and then went on to become the dean of that law center from 1972 to 1974. Louis A. Berry has been described as a man with a husky voice, who spoke with confidence and conviction. It has been said that those who heard him were transfixed because he was a master teacher. Whenever he saw discrimination and injustice, he declared himself an instant opponent. In his lifetime, he dealt disabling blows to segregation in Louisiana. He was part of the team that integrated LSU's law school, LSU's dental school, LSU's medical school. He fought also for voting rights in the state of Louisiana and was a tireless advocate for wage equality. He was affectionately called by those who knew him the Dean of Black Attorneys in Louisiana. Others also referred to him as the Godfather of civil rights. When asked what fulfilled him, Louis Berry said, "My happiest moments are when I am fighting for the people and making equal protection a reality and not a mere platitude." So why would this center, with this mission that is named after this legend, want to bestow this award upon Mr. Malik Rahim? I will answer that through two very brief stories. One of which is during a visit with the late Herman Wallace of the Angola Three. We were having one of our many philosophical discussions about what makes a leader and what exactly is a revolutionary, because Herman wanted me to understand well that they were different. And in that story, Herman introduced me to the man named Malik Rahim. And Herman proceeded to tell me that when he was in Orleans Parish Prison, a stranger to Mr. Malik Rahim looked down and noticed, because he was there after being arrested for the Black Panther Party activities, that Herman Wallace was attempting to walk in shoes that just would not hold his feet. They were simply too small. And Malik took his shoes off for this stranger, gave them to Herman. So Herman proceeded into court with a pair of shoes, and Malik went barefoot. Now, what does this story tell us about this living legend? That he is a selfless man who has a profound love for others. The second story involves several of us who were actively involved with the Angola 3 campaign, and we got subpoenas in the mail, not from a small district attorney, but from the actual Attorney General of the state of Louisiana. And those subpoenas were not because we were engaging in criminal activity. They were because we were exercising our lawful First Amendment rights and advocating for the release of Herman Wallace and Albert Woodfox. And I was a lawyer when I received the subpoena, and I called Malik the non-lawyer. And I was so angry, and I was ranting about the judicial process and how this is an abuse of power, and you can't do this with state resources. And as I continued, Malik let me finish, and he talked about some other subjects, and it was only later the next day that it occurred to me that Malik had gotten me to agree to subsequent activities with him, and we never discussed the subpoena. So what is the lesson about this is that this is a man who is undeterred. Even with a subpoena from the Attorney General of the United States, he was continuing to plan his activities on behalf of the Angola Three, and obviously he is a man of great courage, and needless to say, a committed man to causes of social justice. So like Louis A. Berry, Malik Rahim, you are a godfather, and you are a dean, and certainly you are a legend. You, sir, are the dean of social struggle, and you are the godfather of the revolutionary change agents, and you are a living legend who, like Louis A. Berry, is happiest when you are fighting for your people and making equal protection a reality and not a mere platitude. Woo.
Again, I'd like to bring your attention to the program. We're going to explore 5 chapters in this brother's life. We're going to prove that he's a legend. And so I'd like to start with the first chapter of his life, from birth to the United States Navy. And in order to do that, I'd like to have 2 brothers approach the podium. These brothers are Pernell Herbert and President Rico Forbes, President of the Republic of New Africa. Brother Pernell Herbert is a veteran of the United States Navy, community activist, and playwright, producer, and dynamic brother whom I've known for 20 years.
Presidente.
Brother Pernell.
As I look around, first thing I notice is a lot of y'all seriously underdressed. That's all right. Okay, but I'd like to thank Professor Bell, Dr. Robinson for inviting me to participate in this long overdue tribute to our comrade, our friend, our brother, Brother Malik Rahim. You know, on many occasions like this, someone usually says, we all could have had somewhere else to be today, but we chose to be here with you. And Malik, I can truthfully say, there's no place in the world I'd rather be than here with you tonight. Thank you, sir. Okay, Malik and I are about the same age. We joined the Navy around the same time, and those times were known as the turbulent 60s. And I was certainly not what you would call a radical. I was just a 16-year-old high school dropout from the Fleet Project looking for the best job I could get. And that's what the Navy offered me. I knew there was a war in Vietnam, but I couldn't expect to go there because my oldest brother Clifford was already there. And because I was under 18. At least that's what the recruiter told my mother. 25 days after my 17th birthday, she signed for me to go. I took the pledge, and away I went. 4 months later, I was on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier in Vietnam. I had been to Vietnam and back 3 times before I was old enough to buy a drink in most states in the USA. When I say the turbulent 60s, the year I joined was 65. And Chancellor Pierre, and he said something about putting things in historical context. That's what I want to do now. We talk about the turbulent 60s. During that time, Malcolm X was assassinated, schools in New Orleans had just been integrated, Civil Rights Act had just been signed, Dr. King had a drive to begin voter registration for Negroes. South Vietnam military staged a coup. Dr. King and 700 demonstrators were beaten and arrested in Selma, Alabama. Dr. King followed that up with another march. This time he went back to 25,000 people. The U.S. military began bombing and strafing North Vietnam. President Johnson deployed the first U.S. combat troops to Vietnam to protect the U.S. Air Base in Da Nang. Gambia declared independence from the UK. The U.S. Air Force began Operation Rolling Thunder, where they sustained bombing in North Vietnam. The U.S. was performing nuclear weapons testing in Nevada, the Soviet Union performing nuclear tests in Russia. U.S. combat forces hit the beach in Da Nang, Russian colonists. All that said, we had several wars going on at the same time. The U.S. and Soviets were in the Cold War, as well as the space race. Black folks were heavily involved in the civil and equal rights movement. The war in Vietnam was escalating, and I was oblivious to it all. I just wanted a job and a decent start in life. During my second cruise to Vietnam, the Black Panther self-defense was founded. We knew nothing about it overseas. All we had was information disseminated by our seniors aboard ship. When we returned to the States, one day after arriving back in the States, I was arrested by civilian authorities and incarcerated in the same institution that Huey Newton was in. And that's where I learned that we were no longer Negroes, we were black. There was graffiti all over the jailhouse wall. Power to the people, black is beautiful, 1-2 Wazuri, free Huey. A few years ago, Brother Robert King introduced me to Brother Geronimo Pratt, aka Jajaga. I told him that story at that time. The only Huey I knew was Baby Huey, the cartoon character. So I decided to add a little something to the wall, and I began writing Free Daffy Duck. And he cracked up and said he couldn't wait to tell Brother Bobby Seale about that. But Brother called me and said, no, man, this is serious, you know. And I learned then about the Black Panther Party. I had the privilege of introducing Brother Geronimo, Brother Jajaga to an audience in New Orleans. And it was a relatively young audience, so many of them didn't know who he was. They gave him a lukewarm reception. So I asked him to tell them who his godson was. He received a huge ovation when he said, Tupac Shakur. Now, something we had to deal with back then, white hippies were calling us baby killers. Black radicals were calling us sellouts for fighting the white man's war. And our white shipmates were calling us niggas behind our backs. I met black shipmates and others who spoke on their lives back home, and I listened silently, embarrassed to tell them how passively we had been accepting the racism and bigotry as everyday life in New Orleans. The Navy was the last military branch to integrate. Some say it's because of the close living quarters aboard ship. The Navy was my first time knowingly dealing with racism. Police brutality, segregated schools, segregated projects, riding the back of the bus, not being allowed to eat at the counters on Canal Street. It was all just a normal way of life for us. The more I traveled throughout and beyond the borders of the U.S., I realized how I and my people had been discriminated against not only throughout my brief lifetime, but for decades and centuries after I was born. That should have been before I was born. Okay, all that combined was the beginning of my radicalization. In jail in Oakland, California, I tried to join the Black Panther Party, but they refused to accept me because I was in the U.S. military. As a brother told me, a man cannot serve two masters. About 4 years later, I was honorably discharged from the Navy. I came back home to New Orleans, fell right back into what was some of the same crowd, the same streets, same gangs that I was into before I left. A couple years later, I received my first wake-up call from another Navy veteran by the name of Mark Essex. I remember partaking of the herb at my house with my oldest brother, Nelson, watching that brother's our revolution being televised. We started strategizing how someone could fire from a different building, shoot the pigs from behind the back and turn them away from him and onto them and give him a chance to escape. And never once did we say that we should go out and do it. But years later, reaction of my brother about that historic revolution, Nelson reminded me that neither of us had as much as a slingshot at that time. As time went on, I watched the strategic destruction of the Black Panther Party by J. Edgar Hoover and the U.S. government. I reflected on the Panthers and the courageous stance that they took. I was in Oakland and decided to start practicing my own form of Pantherism and fight the systemic, institutionalized, racist structure in my own way. Thank you.
Good evening. By any means necessary. My brother Atlas, surprised me, didn't know I would be coming up here. We were sitting at the table last night and he was talking about, like the idea that, people who express their views, instead of putting it on paper, should be directly told to him. But I got it on paper this time. To me, see it's like a letter to a comrade. My name is General Rico Ford. First, good evening. I am President of the Republic of New Africa. I am indeed honored to be a part of the Living Legend Award celebration, celebrating the life of Malik Rahim, my brother, my comrade in the Black Panther Party, my brother from another mother, and my lifelong friend.
Yes, indeed.
As kids growing up in Algiers, neighborhood of New Orleans, Malik being a bit older than I, understood at an early age, at a very early age, that there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. When darkness cloud appeared in the sky, he pointed out that it will be only temporary, that the darkness will soon pass and the sun will break through. And he has always been that sunshine for me. He knew just as friends help each other, protect each other, and stood by each other, the same must be applied to our community and our people. From that young boy, he grew into a man of moral integrity, with an ambitious character and a selfless spirit. Malik's moral integrity goes without saying. Being honest, the accuracy of his action by taking responsibility and credibility. His loyalty put his personal needs last. His vision and turning those ideas into action. His ability to always do the right thing, no matter what the consequences. Malik's selfless spirit can be witnessed in his utter devotion to others and his warm heartedness towards all people. A man's ability may be greater or small, but if he has this spirit, he is already noble-minded and pure. Every brother and sister can learn from him. Malik's character can be best defined by the quotation of the Red Book, which us Panthers understand.
Yes.
Dare to struggle, dare to win. As we all know, where there is
where there's struggle, there's sacrifice, and often death is a common occurrence. Malik has sacrificed so much of himself, his time and his resources, and I am so glad he is still here to be recognized for his unwavering dedication to his community and to his people. All power to the people.
All power to the people. Power to the people.
Free the land.
Free the land.
By any means necessary.
By any means necessary.
I love you, brother.
Yeah, brother.
Brother Cornell Herbert and President of the Republic of New Africa, Brother Rico Forbes. At this time, I'd like to introduce this dynamic performance organization known as Third Eye Theater. However, before they come to the stage, I want to acknowledge and celebrate a sister who is steadfastly, always available when we in CAAAS calls. Sister Monique Moss, who's the Artistic Director. As we speak, in this building on the second floor is a dynamic, one-of-a-kind exhibit of photographs by the Sacred Fellows 50-year retrospective photographic exhibit. It's on a long-term exhibition schedule here on the second floor. The curator for that is Sister Monique. Sister Monique has curated at least 3 of our major exhibitions. Again, a dynamic sister who is always readily available to assist us in our efforts. At this point, I'd like to bring to the stage an artistic tribute to Baba Malik Rahim by the Third Eye Theater, featuring Tito Samba, the internationally acclaimed musician from the Congo. Featuring Tito Samba, the internationally acclaimed musician from the Congo. The choreography by Jean-Claude Pizza.
Say yeah. We say Mbote. Mbote. That's a greetings in Congo. And we are here. Yes. We'll be able to do this. Thank you, sir. Everybody say yeah, yeah. Ewa, ewa. Ewa, ewa. Ewa, ewa. Ewa, ewa. Which means listen. If we don't listen to each other, we won't have none. Tomorrow, everybody don't know why. Because we didn't listen. Say yeah, yeah. Yeah. We listen to our children, to our elders, and in between. Listen to your mom, to your wife, to your children, to your grandpa, to your uncle. Say yeah, yeah. Yeah. Ewa, ewa. Ewa, ewa. Ewa, ewa. Ewa, ewa. Oya ya ingri ya kana sangwe. Ewa, ewa. Obwingi kwa ya tuyinga joya. Ewa. Everybody, come on. say yeah. Don't we feel better? Yeah. And this is called Kalimba. Everybody say Kalimba. That's when you went to Botswana. Botswana, they call it Kalimba. You go to Zimbabwe, they call it Mira. Everybody say Mira. And if you went to the Congo, they call it, it's two names. You have the first one is Kisansi. The second one, Likembe. There you go. This song is about friendship. Black people need to have a friendship to each other, among each other. We need to talk to one another. I just want to say that the problem for African people is we don't have a dialogue. We hate each other. We don't trust each other. Until we look at each other in the eye and tell what it is. Because I heard when I first come to America, they said African American don't like an African. Then I heard that African don't like an African American. Why? We never ask her why. Come together and ask each other why. It's only us going to tell the truth. Mama Gongo, Mama Gongo, Mama Gongo, Mama Gongo, Maniga. Thank you.
other dynamic brothers and sisters who were involved with the dance and drumming. Again, the Third Eye Theater. At this time, as we follow the program, you'll see where now we are segueing in the second chapter of this brother's life. We are going from birth to the Navy. We are going from there to chapter 2, public activism, to his Panther years and beyond. But prior to our getting into that, let us enjoy this short documentary. Sooner or later, somebody's going to fight back. That somebody, among others, was Malik Rahim.
Could not imagine when I was like 19.
Did you turn off the volume?
Understand how they could do this. And, you know, when I was growing up in Plaquemine Parish, I was a teenager. You come home in the evening, you see these people marching and praying for nonviolence. I mean, they're marching people kicking them, spitting on them, sicking dogs on them. You say, why are they doing this to these people? I mean, they're not, people wouldn't even hit back. They weren't fighting back. And I think when you do this to people, you'll expect sooner or later somebody's going to fight back. I mean,
came down to New Orleans and was trying to get a job as a welder at a company called H.C. Price on Peters Road in Harlem. And when I asked him how could I become, because I was a welder's helper, and I asked the welder how could I, become a welder. And he told me, well, hey, we don't hire niggas as welders. So from there, him and I got into it, and I was fired. Here I was a veteran, just came back from serving this motherfucking country, and this was, just a white boy that ain't never done shit, you dig? But I was fired and he was kept on. So when that happened, that's when I decided I was gonna do something.
I have had some conversations with the chief of police, George DeRussa in New Orleans, in whom and for whom I have the utmost respect. I've expressed my views to him. I shall express them to Mr. Dent. I feel like it's absolutely imperative we not let the Panthers get any kind of foothold in the city or state whatsoever. I have read some of the material they're putting out. They are a revolutionary group. I interpret it as an absolute violation of all of our laws, and I think we should hit them right between the eyes now before they come there and intimidate a lot of decent people.
Governor Kiffin at the time said he would slap us in the face before we get started, but little did he know we were already off and running.
That was the very first thing we done. Any place we went was establish a free breakfast program to make sure that a kid wouldn't have to go and sit up in no classroom all day hungry. So that was the very first thing we did. Then from there we started dealing with crime. We started making brothers that was on the streets know that, hey, bro, we ain't telling you that to stop what you're doing, but you ain't gonna do this around no children. You dig? The days of children getting shot behind some bullshit that y'all doing is over. And a kid get shot or fucked over because of some bullshit y'all doing, y'all got to deal with the Black Panther Party. So that was the thing that we was doing. And we let them know the same thing about the elderly. You rob into these elderly women, you fuck over one of these elderly men out here, some of our elders, then you're just fucked over us. And we ain't tolerated. So with that, we started getting the respect. We started making, and a lot of brothers that was out there doing wrong started respecting what we was doing. Because with some of them, they knew that even though they was out there doing wrong, that they had mothers. And we wouldn't allow that bullshit to happen to their mothers.
But I didn't know at the time that all his brothers had come from uptown with the information. And I don't know, you probably got the stories of about the evening when Charles was conducting that class. And like I'm sitting there, I'm always mesmerized at him speaking. It looked like he was rushing through the program. And suddenly he stopped and said, and I can't remember at what point, he was going over the platform and program, and he stopped and said, because we've been informed that we have 2 pigs in our midst, and talk about a chill.
The example set here is going to move the people of New Orleans to a higher level of defending themselves. They will not tolerate police coming in their communities, destroying them, beating them up, raping their women, as has been so widely practiced here in New Orleans.
You say you have reason to believe that they will reestablish someplace else in the city? Yes. Will that be desire again?
Our information at present is no, not desire. They're moving to another section of the city.
Me, Benny, and the men from uptown, and then a few of the brothers from the community there, some who have been working pretty close with Malik and them, we went right back in that building and we stayed in there.
New Orleans chapter of Black Panther Party, most of the men came from public housing. And they came from, and it was a unique thing, because up until then, if you was from one project, you didn't really associate with people from other projects. And it was the first time that really you had that coming together, when you had guys from the Magnolia, guys from the Desire, guys from the Callaway, guys from the Malcolmine, and the Fish. And you had these projects in the St. Thomas. So you had people, brothers from them projects coming together for the upliftment of our community.
Tried to pull second grade. I left campus and I went down there, ended up on the front steps. And it was awesome because the whole community turned out and kept them from pulling that rig a second time. And I'd never seen anything like it. You know, you could see the armored car across the canal and all these police cars, and the community was saying, "You're not going to do it again." And it was beautiful.
Inside the courtroom, as well as their recital of the Black Panther 10-point program of things they want to achieve. At one point, the chanting was so loud that Judge Augustine left the bench to quiet the group himself. The defendants were brought into the courtroom individually, each entering with a chant of power to the people, and most with a smile.
The trial for the first 12 was that summer. And so, a lot of people turned out in the courtroom, and that was great to see too.
For about 1 month, this courtroom has been the scene of a legal confrontation between prosecuting attorneys and defense attorneys representing 12 Black Panthers charged with attempted murder of 5 New Orleans policemen. Now, this confrontation is over. A jury of 10 blacks and 2 whites deliberated for only 26 minutes and returned with a unanimous verdict of not guilty.
I've never had any regrets about being a Black Panther because I understood the period of history we were living in. It gave me a sense of history about my people. I'm a direct descendant of Louisiana slaves. My grandmother, Black affair, she sat us on the porch and she told us how our grandmother was a slave, you know, and how we came from slaves here in Louisiana. You know, so I understand, again, I had a sense of history of my family anyway. But the Black Panther Party gave me a sense of history of my race and where we were positioned in America.
Members of our organization do not fear death. 39 brothers have died in the struggle and more than 39 more will die. Fred Hampton was murdered in his bed. We don't fear the bullets of the man because we realize the spirit of the people is greater than man's technology, and the revolution will triumph.
This film exemplifies this next chapter that we are going to explore. This film identifies to its finest point Baba Malik's activity and the environment that existed which forced Baba Malik to respond the way he did. Chapter 2, Public Activism to Panther Years and Beyond, 1968 through 2006. During this particular chapter, I'd like to bring to the fore Brother Muhammad M. Hamad, also formerly known as Green Stevenson Jr., aka Steve Green. Brother Muhammad, please. And bring to the podium a sister I have known for now almost 20 years, was the youngest Black Panther after Little Bobby Hutton in the entire United States, world-class choreographer and African dancer and community activist, Sister Mariama Curry. And a brother who has grown to be like a son to Baba Malik. A brother with whom I have worked for the last 2 months, but it seems like, brother, we've been connected for a lifetime. Brother Trent Smith. This sister and these 2 brothers will again address the life and times of Baba Malik, public activism to the Panther Years and Beyond, 1968 through 2006. Baba Muhammad.
I begin in the name of Almighty God, who is most gracious and most merciful. I need some assistance to get this up, to get some of this, I get a little more volume. Thank you so much. I begin in the name of Almighty God, who is most gracious and most merciful. I bear witness that there is nothing and no one worthy of praise but Almighty God. Those whom Almighty God gives guidance, there's no one that can misguide. And those whom Almighty God allows to go astray, there's no one that can give them guidance but Almighty God. It's indeed a great blessing and a true pleasure to be here to acknowledge and honor my brother, my friend, my fellow Vietnam veteran, but most importantly, my comrade, Brother Malik Rahim. You're looking at a man that in 13 days, God willing, is going to be 70 years of age. I'm the firstborn of 14 children. I've buried 3 brothers and a sister. A 19-year-old killed to violence, a 20-year-old killed to violence. But we didn't come here to talk about that. We're here to honor my brother, Malik Rahim. I first met this brother, well, let me go back a little bit. I came here in 1970 after serving in Vietnam, fighting in the jungles, sitting down in the jungles with the so-called Viet Cong, who was allegedly my enemy, when he pulled out pamphlets and pictures of how we were being lynched, castrated, beaten, water hosed, treated like dogs and animals. And he asked me, well, why are you here fighting me? I am not your enemy. So, in fighting in Vietnam, seeing the Nazi swastikas and the rebel flags was terrible. But on April, I think the 4th of 1968, when they assassinated the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, all hell broke loose. And I'm not going to talk about that this time, but another time, I promise you to share that story, God willing. But I met Brother Malik Rahim when he was Dino Guyton in 1970. He came to our office, it was the National Committee to Combat Fascism, showed up there with his wife and 2 babies. And he said, I like what you all are doing, I support what you all are doing, and I want to be a part of what you all are doing. And that brother took some Black Panther papers and some posters, and he went to work. And he's been working ever since then, and that was 1970. Now, everybody in the Black Panther Party has a different chapter. I was here only for a short period of time. Huey Newton called in September, I want to say around the 15th, 16th, somewhere around there. And our distribution manager, said, hey, Steve, so-and-so, you know the word we use, is on the phone, say he's Huey Newton. I said, well, it might be Huey. It was, in fact, Huey. Invited me to come to New York to a big powwow on the East Coast. Now, we had 2 undercover agents that we all knew, Israel Field and Melvin Howard. We knew who they were. They were doing all kinds of stupid stuff, like trying to do stuff to get us arrested, but that's history. But when this brother came into our office and took the oath, and joined us the way he joined, putting his life on the line, his family's life on the line, he made a bold step. And when I went to New York, I think it was September 15th or 16th, to meet with Huey, I got a call the next day that said they had 500 officers around the office. They had been shooting the office up for 16 hours. And they had their little makeshift tank. But to show you how when God prepares you for something, he prepares you. You see, I had just come out of fighting in the jungles of Vietnam, so I knew a little something about fortifying and building bunkers and making a secure place. And they used to curse me and call me all kind of names when we were filling up those sandbags at 3 o'clock in the morning. But when the police came and started shooting, not one person in there got hurt from the fire that they received because of how God had blessed me to be prepared.
All right.
I had a couple of things I wanted to cover, but I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. Again, this is all about my brother. I just want to say to you, my dear brother, that I love you. We still have a lot of work to do. He came by to see me maybe a few weeks ago or somewhere not long ago, and I've never laughed and had so much fun as I've had with him and the president coming to my house. And that's another episode as well. But there's a couple of facts I figured I would drop on you all, which you all know anyway, but I feel compelled to share it with you. You know, we live in a world where less than 2% of the world population, or approximately 6 656 million people control 40% of the wealth. And in this country, we're talking about 313 million people. And we're talking about black folks spending $1.2 trillion on what? God only knows. But when I walk through the community and still see children running around impoverished and poverty, and the unemployment rate that Google will tell you is 6.6, when we all know it's more like 45 to 60% in some of our neighborhoods. And if we're waiting on the system, or waiting to be voted into something, it's not going to happen, folks. If you think voting works, look at our idiot of a president, a man who has openly admitted to sexually assaulting women as in the White House. And he was running the country into the ground until he shut it down, you see. But we live in a world where 50% of the world's population still exists on less than $2 a day, which is criminal. We live in a world where 60,000 children die every day for basic needs like water and food, you know. But I'm speaking to the choir, you all know all of this stuff. What is the remedy? What is the solution? We're going to have to do something that we've never done before if we're going to change our condition. We've been here 400 or 500 years. There was 100 million. I'm going to say that again. There was over 100 million Africans that lost their lives, their bones scattered across the Atlantic. And in my humble opinion, those hurricanes that rise up and come off the coast of Africa, that's those dead spirits coming back to seek their revenge. But that's just my opinion. You know, I think I told y'all I'm almost 70, so I may be getting a little sometimes. You know, I don't know. But I'm not going to hold you. I want to salute Dr. Clyde Robinson and the phenomenal staff that he has amassed here at this university. I want to acknowledge Professor Dr. Angela Bell, who has been working tireless. And I want to thank each and every one of you for sacrificing the time to be here. You see, time is sacrifice. My little sister said, well, I'm going to a party, but I want to come and see you first. I say, time is sacrifice. You see, me and this brother, we sacrificed to be Panthers 24/7. There was no part-time. You couldn't punch in and punch out and then go home and then come back. When you committed to join the Black Panther Party, which at that time, J. Edgar Hoover said that we were the greatest threat to the national security of this country. Now we've been here 400 years, been treated worse than anybody's been treated on the planet. But now, all of a sudden, we were a great threat because we stood up to protect ourselves and our women and our manhood. It was a joke. I heard the brother say something about Geronimo Pratt. I was recruited by Geronimo in Compton. I was living in Compton, and a brother took me to a Panther meeting. I was recruited by Geronimo Pratt in 1970. I went to Riverside, California, where I co-founded the Riverside chapter, founding the breakfast program, community awareness, college speaking, and the whole nine. And I had a chance to have dinner with Geronimo Pratt and Johnny Cochran not long before Geronimo passed away. And that was indeed a great blessing. He was a true champion for justice. And I want to close in saying, you see, there were an era of the Panthers. Once I left and went to New York, and they had the shootout, my instructions were to go to San Francisco. I said, no, I want to go home and see about my people. He said, Steve, there's a warrant for your arrest on the charges of criminal anarchy, which was the old Louisiana state charge that was baloney. So I was arrested in Los Angeles, went before the United States Magistrate Court. And he said, son, I'm not going to extradite you because these charges are bogus. But if you go back down there within 7 years, you're on your own. So I kind of got away from the struggle. And then the party took a real bad turn for the worse. An example being, I was in New York. I met Sam Napier and his wife, who were the distribution managers from the East Coast, from the West Coast. 2 weeks after I left visiting with them, meeting them and being happy, they were assassinated, gangland style, with their hands tied behind their back and blindfolded and shot in the back of the head. The work of gutless, spineless agents of the U.S. government, okay? But they didn't stop us. They just infuriated us. And then they had the little feud with Huey and Eldridge. All this was the act of agents and provocateurs that have ravaged our communities and ratted us out for hundreds of years. But it's time for a new generation, a new movement. And the ratting out is not going to be sufficient. Because this time, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. It's going to be a whole different thing. I want to also say that in this struggle, you can't judge people by the color of their skin. You have to judge them, as the great Dr. King said, by the contents of their character. Because even in the days that we struggled in the 70s, there were a lot of Europeans and Hispanic people and Native Americans who helped us and were our allies. This thing is bigger than pigmentation of your skin. And if you haven't figured that out in 2019, you're missing the boat. Now, I do say that to an extent, we have to stop, separate, and do something for self. If we don't do this, we will perish. As I said earlier, I'm the first of 14 children. God prepared me to be a leader because my mother had 4 girls after me. I had 2 girls on each side everywhere I went. Every day at school, I'm fighting because somebody messing with my little sisters. And then finally, my mom had about 7 more boys and 2 girls, and I was rescued. But I had a lot of stuff written down to say. It's not the time or the format. Again, I just want to acknowledge my dear brother, Malik Rahim. I want to thank you, my brother, for your courage and all your years of service. And God still has a whole lot for you to do. In closing, I'll say that this is just a spark, because I heard someone say once that a single spark can ignite a prairie fire. So I'm challenging everybody here tonight that could have been somewhere else doing everything else under the heavens to stay focused and be aware of what's going to happen, because this is a pivotal night. This is a spark that will ignite a positive fire that we can control. And God willing, the jig is up. I'll leave you with the greetings, as we say in the Islamic greeting, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, which simply means, may the peace, blessings, and mercy of Almighty God be upon us all.
Thank you, brother. All right. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm short now. Oh. Microphone going on here. I have it. Thank you. Malik, you know what I want to call you, right? I'm short now, but you know, I got a big mouth. You know what I want to call you, right? Down guy. Right?
Speaking to the
anyway, congratulations, Malik. We go back a very long way. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was founded by Dr. Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, October 15, 1966 in Oakland, California, as a mechanism to provide safety in the community. We were fighting terrorism. I hear people talk now about fighting terrorism in the United States. Who they want us to fight is the terrorists. We've been fighting terrorism in the United States for years. The Black Panther